Hey guys. Oh, I'm gonna turn push to talk off really quick. All right. Hey everybody, welcome back to the stream. Thanks for hanging out while I took that break. I'm joined by Empty Tuxedo and Thor from Dreadnought.
How are you guys?
Hey, hey.
So here's an Empty Tuxedo and here's Thor.
Oh, yeah. How are you guys doing today? You doing pretty good, Kyle?
I'm doing well. Got wrecked a few matches, but that's
Oh,
okay.
gosh. I'm all about that life. Oh, man. Been there, done that.
Yeah, I
I'm a
think
fan
everyone
of your
has.
ship names. These are perfect.
Yeah, the
Holy
ship names are
Omens,
pretty funny.
16 Brawler, yeah.
So, Thor and Tuxedo are both the community managers for Dreadnought. So, how did you get started you guys both work at 6 Foot, right?
Indeed.
Yep.
So, how did you get your start there, Tuxedo?
So I have been working at 6 Foot for about 2.5 years now. I originally started in the QA department as one of the QA leads on Dreadnought and the other project that 6 Foot has or Greybox has released called Grey Goo, which is like an RTS game.
Awesome game.
It is a pretty solid game. I think it did a pretty good job. So I worked there for a while and then transitioned into the community field when we had an opening as for like a junior community manager or something like that about a year and a half ago. And that sort of rose through the ranks and did a lot of that stuff. Went to a lot of the shows and went to a lot of the events and stuff like that. And eventually landed the title of just regular old community manager, which is I guess a little bit better. And that's where we're at right now, having a
Nice.
blast.
How about you, Thor?
Oh, gosh. So I joined the team back in January. About 2.5 years ago, I got my start as a full-time broadcaster for Twitch to a tiny old little game called Dawngate. And fun fact that Empty Tuxedo was actually a QA tester for Dawngate
Oh, I
way
hate
back
Donkey so
when.
much.
And I loved it, hated it, but hey, our friendship was born out of that. And so that was 2.5, almost 3 years ago now. And then that game was shut down in November of 2 years ago. Then after that, I was picked up by Microsoft slash Motiga to work on a game called Gigantic as a community specialist slash streaming specialist. And then that was a thing for about a year. Then in December, they laid off their publishing team. And then at that time, the old director, was like, "Hey, you should totally come over here and interview." And I was like, "You know what? I'll see what the 6 Foot thing's all about." I did it. Good people over here. I liked it. I enjoyed it. And next thing you know, I joined in January 2016 and been here ever since.
Nice. So, what kind of hobbies do you have, Thor, outside of work?
Okay, so hobbies outside of work. Well, we just
Or
recently
Tuxedo can
had.
answer. That's cool.
Uh,
It was
yeah,
coming to
I'm
you
sorry.
next.
Okay, apologies.
No worries.
I suppose the biggest hobby I suppose is I play a lot of like D&D recently. We've been doing a lot of that. We have a group at the office, so a lot of us get together after work, and we have some really big conference tables here, so it really
That's
allows us
awesome.
to roll out these big large maps and do all that fun stuff. So that's a huge hobby of mine for the past couple of years. And I don't know, I play a lot of like card games. I'm playing a lot of like Netrunner and stuff like that.
That's cool. How about you, Thor?
Okay. Hobbies. Let's see. I think that work life slash gaming balance has been an interesting thing for me growing up. Working out is a very big part of my life. So I try to do that as much as possible. Pump it, come on. But also,
So you don't
coming
end
from
up like the Thor looking on stream?
yeah. That's my worst nightmare. I actually was shaking when I saw that picture on stream. But then and then being a broadcaster 2.5 years ago, Gigantic and Microsoft and Motiga, I erroneously chose to work a lot more than be a part of my community that I left. And so a lot of the time that I do after work and stuff like that is about being with my community and hanging out with my fellow community members when it comes to my Thunder buddies and stuff like that. So off work, I get to hang out with them, and they of course love Dreadnought as well. So we kind of keep that love and friendship going. Friendship.
Nice. All right, so back to you, Thor. What game have you put the most time into in the last 5 years?
Oh, this is a good one. I had to say Dawngate. I was pretty much like Monday through Friday, 40 hours through that 5 days a week. Back because that's back when streaming, like I was I think the 4,321 partner. Ironically enough, that number.
That's
And
funny.
back then I didn't know how to be a broadcaster. I only know how to work hard. So
Right.
and back then Twitch was such a different beast. There was no like partner help support, all that kind of stuff. So and I didn't know what I was doing back then. I really fumbled into what I did, and so Dawngate was kind of my home, my community, and stuff like that. But then also, I have a lot of love for the Metal Gear Solid series. I love Metal Gear Solid, so my brother and I share a big passion for that. So whether I'm replaying the old Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty or going through Twin Snakes or anything like that, you can either catch me on either that or the other game.
All right, Tuxedo, you saw it coming. Most time in the last 5 years. What game?
Dota 2, I suppose, would be the one that is sapping up the most of our time these days. Just so many consistent updates. Valve's doing such a great job of applying that free-to-play sort of game
Right.
idea and really doing it really well, I feel. And it's just got so many really amazing updates. It should be like so amazing this year at the international. It's something that we spend a lot of time on, both in and out of the office. Oddly enough. What about yourself?
Uh, Either Dreadnought or Naval Action. Put lots of time into Naval Action while Dreadnought was still in alpha. I put probably close to 700 hours into it in the
Naval
first
Action.
2 months.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. In fact, I remember seeing your application, and you talked about that game a little bit, and I was like, all right. I checked it out. I was like, not bad, not bad. I like it.
Oh, this
Little
game does look really dope.
Yeah, and it's crazy. That game's built by 3 guys. They've done an amazing job for just a 3-person team.
Oh, this looks gorgeous.
Yeah,
little passion project. Sometimes
exactly.
those small games can have a big impact. A big
They
impact on
can,
people.
absolutely.
Super Meat Boy and all those.
So what is your favorite ship in Dreadnought, Tuxedo?
In Dreadnought, my favorite ship would have to be the Zeme or Zemi. I forget which one it is. However it's pronounced. I pronounce it Zemi, but that's a reversal of the M and the E. But it just looks so much like a classic submarine, which I feel is really interesting. How they took that idea, just applied it to a ship up in the sky, basically took like a submarine or whatever. All of the attachments that you can put on it, it looks really amazing, and I just like the idea of the Dreadnought as like this big bulking ship that doesn't really do anything when looking at you, but as soon as you turn to the side, there's a few abilities I believe that even like boost you to turn to the side even quicker and then just fire those broadsides.
Yeah,
It feels awesome. It feels so cool. And even when you have the really large plasma broadsides that like physically push back your ship from the power of what you're pumping out there, it just feels so cool. And that is what I feel is like classically Dreadnought, like to its core.
and you, Thor?
So the reason why I like the Granada or the artillery cruiser is probably not one that kind of makes sense. In my old games, and definitely Gigantic, there was a character called Trip, and she had this invisibility, much like the Predator style, where like if you were paying attention hard enough, you could still see that outline, that almost that camo, that see-through camo, and which is very much equivalent to our Corvette. And as an artillery cruiser, in fact, I really don't like snipers. If like in the D&D setting, they're always like, Thor, you're a barbarian, get to the front line and go kill somebody in the front line. And so I don't get to be the rogues. I don't get to be the snipers, and like when I'm role playing and stuff like that. But I love the number one. I love the sharp lines of the Granada. And number two, getting to see Corvettes being cloaked and then just blowing them apart with that heavy 2-punch of the Granada is just so satisfying. And like I guess my eyes are a little bit better trained to be able to see that camouflage. And so I don't excel a lot in our game in a lot of different areas, but I do excel at seeing those sneaky little Corvettes coming out with that camo. I have like a sixth sense. I'm like, I smell Corvette, and I go straight up Predator on somebody.
Nice. So that I had the Zimmy out, and this is the Granada. I'm terrible at snipers in this game. I'm absolutely horrendous at them. Although I wasn't bad at the end of the last alpha because you had aim assist on. That made it nice for me.
The Granada is especially very interesting because it used to look way different. Like the idea of the dual shots, top and bottom, two rail guns is still the same as it is now, but it used to be like two mobile like guns that would physically move a portion of the front of your ship, and it was just such an interesting design. Not to say that it doesn't look cool now, but it used to look way different. If you look at some of our earlier videos or earlier screenshots of
Interesting.
the heavy artillery cruiser, it was two like physically separate guns, almost like the light artillery cruiser is now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see like we talked a little bit about the stream where we were talking about how the Granada, that forward-facing gun, actually it doesn't have some of the intricate systems of like showing every time it shoots and then it goes, but that's like coming online. That's not the official sound effect, but that's what I feel like it should sound. So there's gonna be a lot of cool things that our ships do as we get like more polished. Our game gets out there, and so I'm really excited to see where that ship ends up with. And I don't know if you ever heard of an anime called Trinity Blood. But the front of the Granada, if you look at it, almost looks like two crosses. And in that anime, it was like set really far into the future, and the Vatican had like these really cool spaceships, and that kind of gives a homage to me in the Granada. So love it, absolutely love it.
Yeah, I can see that. That's cool. That's interesting.
What about yourself, man? What are you flying these days?
Well,
like, a
if you couldn't
primary?
tell, oops, not dashboard, hangar. If I take down your pictures for a moment,
That bright orange Koshai?
yeah, well, I've got two of them, so that should tell you what I'm running most of.
It's just so good.
Oh,
The heals
man.
are so
So I've got my healing build with the repair drones and the team support anti-nuke lasers with a nuclear mine for self-defense. And I just swapped the nuclear anti-nuke lasers in because I'm not... This is my trial build. And then Flypaper is what I run most of the time with the nuclear mine and blast pulse because I can pretty much solo all but the heavy corvettes.
Oh, when they get up on you, thinking like, "Oh, this is a free kill right here. This Koshai can't do anything."
Yep.
Oh
Nope.
no, good sir.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. Joke's on you.
Love
Slow
it.
and steady makes me 10% harder to kill, and that blast pulse and nuclear mine will annihilate you even if you get me.
Absolutely.
Love it. Yeah, actually, I was playing the Koshai today, and I hit somebody with the blast pulse and killed the Corvette. And, it feels so good.
It
You're just
does.
like, oh no,
It feels amazing.
Indeed, indeed, it does.
So I'm going to move into some broader topics, and if people in chat want to chime in with stuff that they've noticed under these topics, go for it. So the first topic that I have is some of the abilities or officer briefings not working as intended. The one that I noticed the most is what's it called? I'm spacing now. Desperate measures. So when you get hit by a disruptor missile from a destroyer, and then they lower your health below where Desperate Measures procs, Desperate Measures just flashes like light and dark, and doesn't let you use anything. Is that correct, or is that incorrect?
That doesn't sound correct. It is a active perk, but it shouldn't be removed on disruption, I don't believe.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I do know the fact that Desperate Measures is only supposed to proc once per life, as I
Right.
understand it.
That's fair. Yes.
Yes.
That does definitely sound like a bug. A lot of these modules, a lot of these briefings are going to have those weird kind of like systems just like that. Just like the fact that if you get disruptor pulsed and you can't see your screen, and then if you hit the middle mouse button, it'll bring your UI back in, and that's unintentional. So there's going to be a lot of
Right.
different quirks like that will kind of manifest itself into these different officer briefings. But that sounds like one of them. But for players out there in chat too, if you find things like this, record it and send it to our QA team and be like, "Hey guys, this sucks," and then we'll be like, "All right, let's get to this." But that's one that I haven't heard, and which is definitely interesting that you say that. Scrambler pulse. You're right. The deaths. Well, in before death yells at me.
I think
Yes,
that's also
Scrambler.
made a pretty good point there as well. That some of this stuff just may be less than accurate. Text is
Gotcha.
often the hardest thing to update in game, despite it like looking like it's probably the easiest thing to update, right? But you still see a lot of games having incorrect spelling errors or grammatical mistakes and things like that, just because text is often perhaps like the last thing to really give it a good pass on everything. Granted, it's the descriptions of abilities, so they should be fairly accurate. But if there are any instances where some of that stuff just doesn't line up, it's worth noting that it's a bug, and probably like reporting that in is absolutely what you should do so that we can ensure that it's correct. But there could also be a few instances where some of that stuff just hasn't caught up with the current design, which is not great, but it is something that we absolutely need to fix regardless. Either the text needs to be updated to better describe what's going on, or we need to actually resolve whatever bug issue is going on there where it isn't really interacting like it says it should.
Gotcha. What earlier at the start of beta, one of the Corvette abilities, I think it was, I don't remember
It was just
exactly
like a
which one it
copy
was.
paste of another one, yeah.
Yeah, it was the exact copy paste of another one. I thought that was hilarious, so I submitted that bug report. But
Yeah.
like they say, every time you find a bug, submit it because it helps them a lot, and that's what you're here for.
Absolutely. And thank you guys so much for all the bugs that you submit. Our QA team, we get like emails on the daily of here's the bugs that came in this way, here's the bugs that came in this day, and they're all so perfect. We're getting better every day for it. We may not be updating the game daily, but we are absolutely working and striving and improving every time you guys submit something.
And which is unfortunate side effect of game development. When players like will do these bug QAs and stuff like that, and then players say something, oh, the desperate measure things, and it doesn't get fixed in a timely frame. Players can erroneously assume that we're not working, and it stinks because like on the back end, there's so many different builds going on. There's so many different like moving parts that can prolong something, can put something on a different track, and then players unfortunately doesn't get like any insight into that, and that's where Sean and I both try to like make our job possible to give you guys kind of an insight in the development team. And it doesn't always go as smoothly as we want it to go, but we do hear you guys when it comes to those kind of bug issues and those kind of things. Oh my god, hold on. Oh gosh, I had a peanut in my throat.
Thor's
Peanut, please.
dying.
I'm dying. Sean, this is your
eating
fault.
peanuts over there?
Quick, someone grab the hammer.
Oh gosh, there was the peanut bags, the fruit mixes that we get had a peanut in there. Somebody tried to take me out.
So then let's get into abilities that are working a little too well, like Purge Ram. Is it intended that they hit all the ships around it, or is it supposed to just hit one ship?
Yeah, not at all. It's not supposed to have what a large AoE it does. Like the AoE is super huge right now, and that isn't really exactly intended. I think it's maybe supposed to have a little bit of a bigger AoE perhaps than just a regular ram, but some of the numbers are probably flipped there so that it looks too huge, or maybe it's following the effect of what the visual effect looks like, and that's sort of extrapolating into the actual effect. But no, we spoke about this in our dev roundtable earlier this week, and Sam Green, our live designer who actually makes all these tweaks, makes all these live adjustments, was like, no, that's absolutely not intended. The fact that like it's being super exploited is incredibly unfortunate. Like, we're sorry that that's happening, but it's a great way to exemplify that, hey, this is like a genuine problem. Look at how many people are just exploiting the hell out of this thing and going super ham with this purge ram. But no, that's absolutely not intended. I imagine it'll be fixed in a recent update just because it's become so incredibly prevalent that it's sort of like on everybody's mind. And yeah, that's not supposed to be a thing for sure.
Well, that's awesome. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about here is a lot of new players seem to be a little frustrated having to play against like 50s once in a while. And I'm not going to go into the whole matchmaker thing because I know it's having its own issues. But let's talk about getting counters to abilities before you actually get the ability. I know you've talked about that before. Would you mind extrapolating on that a little bit?
Yeah, Thor, do you want to take this one away, or do you want me to do?
Say the question one more time, please.
Getting counters to abilities before you actually gain said ability. So you have the answer to it before you have the question.
Yeah, so I think this was one of our things that we had in the hero ships, getting different abilities online before the progression as you're getting through it. I see this in two different trains of thought. So a linear progression is good in the sense that you get different abilities, you get to understand the abilities, and then you get to theoretically go on to the next ability. And there's supposed to be a level playing field as far as no ability is inherently better than the other one. They're just a different tool in the toolbox. As it stands now, Jaeger did a very, very good job of that, but there are some extraneous circumstances, as you're pointing out. And I feel like a progression in general is a point of contention with the community that it needs to be worked on. But getting this in front of as many people as we have, and getting to see what ability fits where and why it fits this way and why it is a point of pain for a lot of players is, I think, that is the biggest get from this one of the closed beta that we're doing right now. But it's a dialogue that we get to have with our community, and having those different abilities come online before the solution or before the answer to this presented itself is something that we as a company are figuring out. And what does this make sense in the hero ship avenue? Does this make sense in the progression avenue? Those are questions that we're getting to answer, and making players go to 1 through 50 in a alpha sense. When in our alpha, Sean, what was it? 2 players got level 50 during our alpha
there were a
session?
good chunk, but yeah, the grind was a lot longer in the alpha than it is now, I feel.
Indeed, but now we have multiple players, hitting that 50 mark. Multiple players saying the same thing, and that is just more artillery for us to kind of come back to the developers to be like, "Hey, listen, this doesn't feel good. What can we do next?" And that's kind of where we fall on that right now.
That's cool. So I know this is something that you kind of went over a little bit in the roundtable discussion, but I've had people bring it up in chat that weren't there, um,
What? Why
and
weren't they there?
Shame,
yeah,
shame,
that's
shame.
what
No,
I
I'm
want to
kidding.
know. Power to weapons, does that not affect any specific modules if you're using them?
Does it not affect specific modules that you use?
Correct. So, like, would it not affect a repair drone?
So when you have so this is a good question. So are you referring to the officer briefing that when you set energy to weapons, it increases the modular's
Yeah,
power by
sorry,
30%?
module amper.
Modular ramper, yeah.
Yeah. So the way we hotfixed this in actually very recently is that it now snapshots the ability based on when you do power to energy. If I'm understanding the question correctly. So in the past, before the hotfix that came in, right before, like, say you throw out a nuke and you hit power to energy, and then you throw out a nuke with that officer briefing. In the past, that nuke wouldn't be 30% stronger if you did power to energies beforehand. In fact, it was when that nuke hit the target or right before, then you did power to energy, then the nuke itself in flight would be 30% powerful. But now we have the snapshot ability into our game where you do power to energies, you have that officer briefing, and then you throw out that nuke. That nuke is now inherently 30% stronger. Then you don't have to keep it on power to energies. You can keep it power to shields. You can hit no power, stuff like that, and that nuke in the air will be 30% more powerful.
And I think
And
sort of what the people in chat are maybe talking about there is things that aren't necessarily like inherently obvious, like drain drones or odd abilities like repair pods and things like
right,
that you would think would be snapshotted with that. And that is like a really good question, really interesting concept, because some of that stuff, the snapshotting concept makes a lot of sense for things like Tempest torpedoes or something, but it kind of falls apart when you're doing something that isn't maybe inherently just the numbers can be bigger. I'm actually making a note right now because it's probably worth it to get like a really good write-up of this from like Sam Green or one of the actual designers behind the like intent behind snapshotting, because this seems like this is a question that's been coming up an awful lot in the community, and some of those odd idiosyncrasies of how that works are probably worth spelling out so that everybody is on the same page, and maybe they're not taking module amper because it isn't really working for the abilities that they thought it should, or maybe it's an ability that, or a officer perk that's picked a little bit more often because it is more ubiquitously just better when you're putting power to energy or putting
Indeed.
power to weapons rather.
right. I
Yeah.
know that they
So I'm gonna
said
see
in
if
the
we can
round
get like
table.
a
I know
write up
that you
on
guys
that.
said in the roundtable that it's now working correctly with mines.
Yeah.
So
So
that's why
yeah,
I
that's
was
what
wondering if it was working with other abilities as well.
Yeah, so we actually last week, community came up to me. One of the I think it was Malcolm, indeed, Panzer Bro, and he said, "By the way, Thor, I was messing around with the mines, and I think it was a nuclear mine, and somebody hit a weapon booster pulse and snapshotted the weapons with the new hotfix in, so it was theoretically more powerful, and he put a bunch of mines down, and he says somebody came up behind him and just was instantly destroyed, and so he's
Yeah.
like, you should watch out for that. So I didn't get to see it, but yes, you're 100% right. When we definitely have to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. So pretty fun.
A lot of people
Yeah.
would sort of deduce, I guess, that like if you put power to weapons and you heal better. If that's the interaction, then that should extend to repair pods and things like that.
Yeah, I would think
But
so.
it could be like there could be some weird reasons why that isn't working, or it could be like a genuine bug. So it's something that I think we should probably look a little bit more into on the design side or on the dev side, and give you guys like a better answer and a better way of explaining that to everybody, so that we're all on the same page here.
That would be awesome. So Jack Ice has a good question that I know the answer for already. Will there ever be AI ships in this game?
There
Yeah.
aren't there in the training match?
So yeah, there is training match, and then there's also like drones, as far as like AI controlled, like a module that sends out ships that actually needs to be kind of buffed or tweaked a little bit right now. It's one of the points that Jaeger's like, yeah, that module is kind of in a rough shape. So there's one aspect of it, and then also PVE. We have gone on record saying that we are working on a PVE aspect portion of our game, and so a lot of players are really excited about that, and it's definitely something that can be fleshed out as far as what does that look like, and we're kind of figuring that out still, but there is 100% plans. I know internally we worked with some stuff regarding PvE, but we're not quite ready to really announce what that looks like for the players, but we are actively working on it, and there are some really cool things coming down the pipelines.
But you have announced that Dan Abnett is the one writing your PvE story.
So
Early on, we were working with Dan Abnett, yes.
Okay.
That gets a little bit. Dreadnought's been in development for a very long time, and we were working on a lot of stuff before it actually ever saw the light of anything. I am unsure how much interaction he has with the product as it is today, but we were working with him on some early stuff regarding the overall feel and the overall lore, and maybe the overall conversations that were being had
Gotcha. Good to
in what
know.
Dreadnought is.
yeah, for sure. And like universe building is very important to us in our game and stuff like that. And when you write a story out, and again, I'm not saying this is how it was, but a story can still be a story even if people don't read it. You know what I mean? So even
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
even if a dialogue comes later on that he may have worked on or didn't work on, he still had a great job like building this universe. Like it's great to see going back into the analogs or a wiki and stuff like that internally, getting to see. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but getting to see how much love and passion went into the project when it came to lore. Sean, you were part of the QA team for a very way back when, and the game has changed so much since you were a part of it, and me getting in since January. And sometimes Sean and I will be drinking a beer or something like. He'd be like, "Hey, Forrest, I remember back in my day when blank, 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 blank was in Dreadnought," and I'm like, "What?" And the game has just changed astronomically, but that doesn't mean that the feel, the heart, the soul still isn't there, and we can definitely cannibalize or use some stuff that just hasn't come online yet for great purposes, much like PvE or universe building or what have you.
Well, that's really interesting. So specific ships that seem to have that's the issue with them seems to come up over and over in matches is the Gora, Zimmy, and artillery cruisers, their ranges specifically with their primary weapon.
Yeah, make artillery cruisers great again is my hashtag around the office.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like the artillery cruiser could use a little bit of a buff when it comes to range. I may be outvoted and vetoed, but that's honestly like it's our job, Sean and I, to take that community feedback and bring it back to the developers and have that dialogue with them and facilitate that dialogue between you and the developers. I've seen some contention around those points, the Garana and different ships having those different ranges and whether it makes sense or not. I would just suggest everybody to be open to change, just because how something was in alpha doesn't mean how it's going to be in beta, and there's a lot of moving parts, and while something gets changed on the front end and maybe we only have a certain part of that puzzle, or maybe things weren't the coefficients weren't tweaked all the way like they should have. So it's just really a process. Sean, if you want to add anything to that, though.
Yeah, I suppose the only addition I would make to that is that as a result of some of the changes that we've seen to the range on the artillery cruisers, overall we've seen them probably be used a little bit less than average. That said, on the alternative, there's been a lot of really interesting uses of the artillery cruisers in that stream that we had. I think it was last week, where it was 2 artillery cruisers and then a heavy destroyer using the weapon booster pulse to pulse their damage. And while they were sort of sitting at or just under max range of that 7K, dealing that really consistent damage really, really heartily. If that were at 10, that would have been incredibly devastating. You can't really close that gap. But it is a push and pull, and it is always a process, and that's what this closed beta environment is absolutely for. So if we're seeing some of those numbers, some of those uses of those ships be a little bit less or be a little bit more in some cases where the Gora or the Zemi has the range to be like comparable, we should absolutely continue to tweak those numbers. And to not do so would be like we would be wasting everybody's time, right? Because that's what the closed beta is.
See, now, not that I have a problem with this, because I don't, like, I almost never play artillery cruisers, but the Gora has an 8.9K range. So I can harass artillery cruisers all day, especially if I have what's it called? Engine rigger officer briefing.
Right.
Throw power to engines and just keep outranging them and just harass all day long.
Before they can even get to you.
Yep, before they can even get in range of me.
Yeah, and that sounds like something that should probably be adjusted, or at the very least discussed, whether it's, nerfing the Gora's range or extending the range of the artillery cruisers, or finding some happy medium where it isn't necessarily range that's tweaked, but perhaps damage. So you could probably pepper them from range, but it isn't really doing much to really matter outside of removing like their glass cannon officer briefing for not having full health.
And it usually doesn't do a lot of damage unless you throw weapon booster pulse and weapon amplifier on there.
Oh, absolutely. Then you're shredding through people.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that exact situation. And I'm just like, why can't I hit this man? He's just like poking me, and I'm like, son of a gun! Like I have the longest, I had the biggest gun in the galaxy, and yet I can't hit this man coming at me. So yeah, definitely. I mean, granted, everybody's gonna be a little biased, me included. But good points in chat though. Everybody's kind of talking about it, and so yeah, it's definitely makes some points. Like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's great or anything. It's a good harass.
Yeah, indeed it is.
All right, what's up next? Hero ships. Let's talk hero ships. What do you guys think of the Morningstar?
More like Thorning Star, am I right? No, I'm kidding. So hero ships are an interesting conundrum because, like, just from a personal standpoint, I love the Morning Star that Bix brings to the battlefield. I love lore. I love getting to know a little bit of insight on why I'm fighting this fight. And I don't think anybody can argue the fact that a lot of love went into those hero ships design and just looking at the front of that ship. And I think this is just the very pinnacle. Like, this is the very first step in creating great ships like this. For the first hero ships to come out there, like, they're absolutely beautiful, and
they are at that.
And so there was a good post on our Reddit talking about, are hero ships worth it? And I think I number one, the geometry designs, like, you get those different pieces of those hero ships, and to me, as a person who likes to tinker around, I think that's where I get the most value out of that, getting to have those different hero set pieces. But when it comes to the higher tier players, people who who are already that level 50, what do they get out of a hero ship is something that I want to ask everybody else, because like they don't need to have that boost in like abilities, because they already have every ability unlocked. The only thing that they would be paying out of a hero ship is a ability to use those geometry set pieces, and likewise that's the only value they're getting out of that. So I think it's on us to really make those hero ships even more valuable to players out there. But that's just kind of where I stand on that. But I don't know, what about you, Sean?
I think sort of what you're probably getting at, Kyle Gus, is the idea that the hero ships are meant to be heroic. They're meant to be sort of the best of the best. They're meant to be very cool, very good, offer you some unique new options for gameplay. But I think, as some people are saying in chat, some of the abilities don't really match up to this epic grandioseness that these ships that you had to pay for are intended to evoke. I think some people are saying in chat that the scattergun broadsides on the Morningstar, they're less than ideal, and in almost all cases, plasma broadsides would probably be better.
That 900-meter range is just painful. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
the
It's
5-second
not great.
cooldown is amazing, but that 900-meter range, especially with slow and steady, because you can't close the gap quick, is painful.
That's very true. I think what the hero ships are designed for and what they're meant to sort of introduce into the game is not only an opportunity to get into some of the later portions of progression a little bit earlier, try out those new abilities before you had the opportunity to otherwise. And it's also sort of also meant to introduce to you like a different style of play than perhaps you were used to, or a different style of play than you would perhaps be or perhaps have available to you at that point in the game. The scattergun broadsides aren't really great, but if you look at the entire kit of what the Morningstar is intended to do, you're probably supposed to warp jump in, tractor beam them, get a little bit closer to you, and then scattergun broadsides them. Now, if you
Right.
don't follow those exact abilities, or if any of them go on cooldown, or use any of them on accident, or get hit with a disruptor missile or anything like that, then suddenly that combo breaks down. But I think the idea there is pretty sound. Retaliator, tractor, warp is what Video
Yeah.
here is saying. It's not terrible. I think it's a really cool idea. And what we need to do is maybe look at those individual abilities to ensure that they're really holding up their end of the bargain. Because the idea there, the core of what the Morningstar is intended to do, is I think pretty sound. But if some parts of it sort of fall off or aren't really as good as they're supposed to be, then yeah, those should probably be tweaked and be looked at. They're sort of situational. They're sort of meant to look at like different portions of the game. There's the heavy Koshe, the Kali, that has that one ability that doesn't really mesh with everything else they're doing. And
Yeah,
a lot
sorry,
of the early,
it swaps out
yeah.
the first ship in your loadout whenever you make a new loadout in the hero ship, so I don't have the Kali up right now.
Oh, no worries. But yeah, it's. I know that there was a lot of. I can't get it off the tip of my tongue right now, but there was a lot of feedback when we first introduced the hero ships that this ability is completely worthless. I would much rather have this one. But
But
that's
I
sort
mean,
of
I understand
like
that you can't
building
make
one.
the
Yeah,
ships OP because, and this is my big thing,
sure.
especially right now, buying access for especially the $40 pack. There's huge value in that pack
Oh,
because
disgusting value.
every wipe you have access to almost end game abilities immediately. And that's not only that, but once you get your, say, even to rank 25, you have your 5 loadouts, your trader ship loadouts, which are and then you have a few good hero ships. That gives you 15 options when you're in a fight.
You definitely have power through opportunity or power through availability.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's something that we have identified as a sort of concern, and we can't go into too much of the details as to how we're resolving that. But it was definitely something when we put out that player survey a few weeks ago, was something that came back to us, and it sort of isn't where we want it right now. It sounds weird when you sort of explain it, and we sort of like explain it back. It sounds odd to have more opportunities than other people just because you spent money, and that's not really exactly pay to win, but you could make that argument, right? And you wouldn't be inherently wrong with it. So we're looking to resolve that. We're looking to augment that. We still want hero ships to have value. We still love the idea behind all the lore that they're creating, introducing new, unique sort of playstyles that you maybe wouldn't have thought of or have access to. But sort of how they're implemented right now, we need to look at the abilities, make sure they're on point, make sure they aren't flubbing where they should be excelling, and we just sort of
Right.
figure out like how they're actually introduced to the players. And I think without going into too much detail, we're going to see a lot of that stuff in the coming months. We're going to see a lot of those details, a lot of those plans for the future of Dreadnought really fleshed out for you guys, and it should be a blast. I think you guys are going to be really, really happy with a lot of the feedback that we've taken from you guys and really iterated on.
So I'm not going to get into any of the hero ships that we saw in Alpha because I don't know how much of that I can talk about. But I do want to mention one that's been all over the forums. The hero
Sure.
Monarch. That
right.
guy.
Uh-oh. Are we going to see it on your stream?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
it is a beautiful ship. Like, I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of the Monarch, but that might actually get me to play it a lot more, just because it's so pretty.
That is a pretty looking ship. I'm not gonna lie to you. About a week and a half ago, I was walking by and I saw Sean's computer was open, and I was like, "What? What ship is that?" And I was just out of the corner of my eye. I knew what it was, but it looked so good that I was like, "What is this?" Because players were talking about it's in game or like it's visible on our forums. I was like, "Who do I need to kill to like who leaked this?" And then I was like, "They're like, oh no, it's been on our forums for a long time," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it has. Okay, we're good." Yeah. No, I agree. You know, man, like I know Sean and we can't get into it, but we have big plans for these kind of ships and or Jaeger as well, and it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool, and I think Jaeger understands the idea behind that. If it's a hero ship or it's a ship much like this one, it deserves its day in the sun. You know what I mean? It deserves to have great lore behind it. It deserves to have that feeling of, hey, the player got this ship. Let's make it impactful. You're flying a capital ship with like 500 people. Let's make it feel like that. Let's make it epic. And
Absolutely.
the visual identification of that is amazing. So yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I know just the hero ships that we saw in Alpha, they look amazing as well. And we didn't get the lure behind them or the abilities on them, but we got to see the skins and they look amazing.
For sure.
So, this is something that went around, I think it was last week. Yeah, it was maybe a little over last week. They were talking about server wipe this Friday, server wipe this Friday.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Dude, yeah. Let me just clarify this right now. So I've had a couple of rumors come down the pipeline, and I think one of them is hanging out in chat right now. So like, first of all, like if you guys hear rumors, like just everybody calm down a little bit. Let's calm down. Number two, like we're gonna give you some time. We're gonna give you some ramp up, and we haven't had the best track record in the past, so I can understand why players can be upset and be like, hey, what's going on? But we are gonna have an idea of when we're gonna do a wipe and let everybody know. I think we will not like wipe an hour. Like, oh, by the way, servers are going down. See your stuff later. We would do our best to kind of keep you informed. I've heard some funny rumors. I know Sean and I talked about one earlier, how we lost all the developer headhunt data, which is like wasn't true at
That's
all.
hilarious.
And I'm like, and I remember sitting at my desk Saturday. I'm like, Sean? He's like, Thor? And I'm like, Sean? He's like, no. And I'm like, all right, we're good. So shame. Don't spread the rumors. You can always reach out to us, whether it's on our Twitter or Facebook, if there's something if something very urgent is happening. But we'll do your best to answer that. But we got you guys. Wipe this
Yeah,
Friday
and
confirmed. No, kidding.
and I kept telling everyone, there's probably not going to be a wipe Friday because they haven't announced it. They'll give us notice before they wipe. And everyone was like, server wipe, server wipe.
Yeah, wipes are a huge deal. We may be a little bit quick to let you guys know when we're about to have maintenance or something like that. Sometimes that stuff happens like very sporadically, and we're like, oh shit, yeah, we're in maintenance tomorrow. Sorry, we didn't tell you guys sooner. But wipes and changes to like the progression and everything about your ship and any like lasting changes to that, we are going to know about well ahead of time. And the only real like caveat to that would be if we make an update to the game and it accidentally wipes something, or make an update to the game and it doesn't do what we wanted it to and ends up like wiping some stuff. But that's why we have backups. That's why we have copies of all of our servers and copies of all of your data. We would just roll that back and everything would be totally fine. So we were going to let you guys know extensively, and we're working on getting much better in-game messaging as well, so that there's not a soul in the game that isn't aware when we're about to do any sort of server wipe. And we're trying to keep those to a minimum anyway, because they're no fun for anybody, right? It doesn't really solve our progression problem or solve our matchmaking problem. A lot of people are saying like, hey, you guys should wipe so that, people don't really stomp anymore, but that's not going to change anything. It's actually going to make it a little bit worse. What we need to do is fix who you're matching up against and who you're matching up with, and that's going to solve that, not like wiping everybody back to zero.
Yeah. And which is always a case, guys. I mean, internet's funny, data's funny, and pipelines are all like unfortunate. If there's something bad does happen like that, you can rest assured that Tuxedo and I are going to be doing everything in our power to be like, guys, this wasn't intentional. What can we do for the players to kind of get there in their good graces? Is that free GP? What are we looking at, boys? But it happens. It's data and stuff like that, but nothing. We don't have anything planned like that. So, but we'll keep you guys up to date as best as possible.
Yeah, and you guys have been doing a better and better job about that. So something that
Oh,
that
thanks,
comes
man.
up, yeah, no problem. Something that's come up a few times on stream and a few times in chat, and just kind of seems to be there in the background, as people asking for more than 5 options in your loadout screen. But I think I understand why you have it that way and why you're not allowing it, and making it so people can buy it with real money, kind of like the World of insert name at the end games do. So, is that something that you can comment on?
Um,
The reason that we have the certain loadouts that we do, or the number
The
of them?
number,
the
the
loadout
number of
slots.
options.
Sure. I
Um,
think. Go ahead, Thor.
well, so yeah, it's a good question. I would say that our game. I've said this before, stream, that our game is going to be astronomically changing in the next 6 to 8 months because we're in closed beta. I think I can't give you a certain for sure like detail. I know players have been talking about, hey, this 5 loadout slots, it doesn't feel really good, but there's reasons why that is in place. But I know personally we're looking inside to figure out what is that good balance between loadout slots, hero ships, all that kind of stuff. I would just caution that our game is changing a lot. So what is today may not necessarily be tomorrow, but until we have those frameworks of changes in game and stuff like that, players are going to be commenting about, hey, loadout slots and stuff like that, paying money to have more open loadout slots. But I would just caution to be patient because, yeah, we're going to be changing a lot in closed beta.
Good to
Not to
know.
continue to be coy, but yeah,
Yeah.
the idea of more loadout slots, the idea of paying for loadout slots, or the idea that you have more loadout slots through having hero ships and things like that. A lot of that, so much of that, is all tied back to customizing your ships and how many ships you have and how many ships you're bringing in, the abilities that you're getting, why that matters, upgrading your ship and things like that. That whole sort of progression mindset, and a lot of that is getting substantially improved based on a lot of y'all's feedback, including, hey, I need more loadout slots, dude. I gotta, I got ships to edit. I gotta see stuff. I want more loadouts. I want to save loadouts. Would maybe be a bit of an easier alternative than just including, 5 more lines. Then your entire hangar looks like a grid, and then you can't see like the sexiness that is this Otis. But
Yeah, I
there
know.
there are ways to make that a little bit better. There are ways to like make that a lot more fun and a lot more engaging for you guys. And we're excited to be talking about that in the future.
I know I
But
could
yeah,
use
we
five
hear
or
you
six
for
cal.
sure.
I know I could use 5 or 6 Koshi loadouts.
Yeah, just so like I need all these options, right? There are so many different Koshis out there that could be good. There's a loadout for this. There's a loadout for this. There's a loadout for
Exactly.
this. And they're
Indeed.
all different and they all matter and they're all important and you need all of them in game. And there are ways to make that fun and make that enjoyable for you guys. Make it a little bit less dinky.
Yeah. Kyle, if I could be so bold, could I answer a question in chat by
Yeah,
Asakath?
absolutely.
So, yeah. So he says the start of CVT didn't go so well. Big streamers shutting their stream down because of issues. Any plans to hook them up again? So that is heavily tied into my job. I will agree with you that the launch of CVT didn't go so well in the sense of big streamers aren't streaming the game anymore. Yes, and Asakath, I could see why you could think that. I will say from a professional side of things, our game has a lot of rough edges, and broadcasters, we're talking about Lyra, Kill Carnage, and all that kind of stuff, Sacriel, the big guys, JP, they enjoyed the game. There was a lot of issues with the servers. There was a lot of things that went wrong on our side from a production level that we're going to be fixing. We just went into closed beta, and our closed beta is a performance closed beta, not a promotional closed beta, which is a huge deal. How we re-engage those broadcasters, they're personal friends of mine, so there's one little like feather in my cap that can be like, hey guys, our game is so much better. We did kind of turn the stove on and burn some people's hands, like you just mentioned, the pay to win stuff. But that is a commitment over time. We understand where our game is, where our numbers are better than most people because we understand how many people are playing on a day-to-day basis. And it's hard to have faith in us because like we are not discouraged on our end. We understand where we are, and from an outside looking in, you can make those assumptions and be like, hey, there doesn't seem to be a lot of players playing right now. There's not a lot of change going on in the back end. But we're gamers too. We realize that we understand the kind of state of our game, and we are in those meetings every single day. And it's really it's not a sprint. It's a marathon, and we are in like Jaeger is not a new company in so sense, but 6 foot Jaeger making this game Dreadnought. We have a long journey to go for, and this is our first step out of the gates. And while we had a lot of hiccups and stuff like that, we also managed to launch a really fun core gameplay loop. And I think that finding that core gameplay loop, understanding the problems around or either progression or matchmaking and all that kind of stuff is really really kind of the gist that we're getting from that, and that are just so important. That those metrics, those telemetries, those tell us so much more, and speak so much more voluminous than really having a co-carnage stream for like 2 months and stuff like that. I would challenge you again to look at Overwatch. Overwatch had their closed beta streaming marathon where they only invited broadcasters and a select few people streaming their game. The last day of Overwatch beta only had 300 people watching their stream, and that's Blizzard, that's Overwatch, that has millions of dollars going into their marketing campaign. And then look what they're doing right now. Look how much of a big impact Overwatch is having on Twitch. So even something as big as Overwatch, if you saw those metrics on Overwatch in closed beta, they shut their servers off, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna go dark for a little while, then have another big event. And there's I'm not going to go into like marketing strategies of by turning closed betas off and stuff like that. But where we are right now, it makes more sense for us, number one, to keep the servers off, to engage with you guys, to have these kind of conversations, because we don't have millions and millions of players playing with it, but we are getting a lot of data. We are not in a promotional beta. So there's a lot of different threads in this tapestry that maybe isn't as visible to other people looking in. So, but I do understand why it does look like the way it does, Asakath. But have faith. When we go into open beta, when we go into commercial launch, I will be like, "Yo, Lyric, stop what you're doing and come play our game again. It's so much better." And he'd be like, "Thor," and I'd be like, "Lyric," and he's like, "All right, fine." Or Strippin, or Total Biscuit, and all those guys. And so they're not old at this. Imagine if Dreadnought launches the way we want to launch. We hit it with that 1-2 punch. We did our closed beta, we go back into an open beta, we go back into a commercial launch, and everybody starts playing our game. It has millions of people. Those are going to be the first people that stand up and say, hey, I just noticed Dreadnought's trending right now on hashtag Twitter. What can I do? And of course, we're going to be getting right back into it again. So that's kind of the long and short of that answer, if I went on a little bit.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say it was great fun that first week streaming when the servers were up, but I can't say I'm too disappointed having some of the big streamers gone, so I appear higher on the streaming list.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're not wrong. Like I started off as a community game streamer. Dawngate it was not popular by any means, but that's how I got my start. And as Dawngate got a little bit bigger, Total Biscuit gave it a huge shout out. We went from a 6,000 CCU to a 14,000 CCU, and I grew with the game. I grew with the community. So there's a lot of love for the smaller broadcasters, the medium broadcasters, because those are the most passionate. They stick with the game. They're not going to be like, ooh, shiny, and go somewhere else. So I got a lot of love for those people, and your population will obviously rise as the game rises. So I appreciate you, Kyle, sticking through it, because while you could make the argument, a very valid argument, saying like streaming Dreadnought may not give you the most viewership that you want, and as a broadcaster relations specialist, I understand that. I do. But yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Sean, you there, bud?
My bot doesn't like links.
No worries.
Sean,
that was just responding to a question in chat about
Yeah, no worries.
6 foot.
Sean, you want to tackle the one about careers?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, sure. So that was a question that Zarek asked: getting involved in QA, getting involved in community management, getting involved in IT, and the other opportunities that we have. 6 foot, and by extension, Greybox, is mostly Houston-based. We have a small studio out in LA that mostly handles a lot of our partner relationships, but most of us are exclusively based out of Houston. So if you wanted to get involved, absolutely reach out to us on that careers page. For some of the positions, there is relocation opportunities, things like that. We don't necessarily do too much in terms of like off-site employment or something like that, but we can always make exceptions for particularly like amazing applicants. But we are looking to expand just so much. The popularity of Dreadnought is soaring through the roof. So there are going to be uh, thousands, hundreds, not maybe not thousands, hundreds of job listings and job opportunities at 6-Bit, working on Dreadnought, working on all of our other titles. In the coming weeks and months. So continue to check that out. We have some really awesome recruiters here. We got some great guys from some other studios that are helping us to find some cool, awesome people. So hit us up, and we'll absolutely consider you and have those conversations, and hopefully work with you. Should be a blast. But yeah, that's sort of how you would do that. In terms of maybe becoming a QA tester or a community manager, in terms of community management, just doing it, writing blogs, writing posts, hanging out on forums, doing a lot of social stuff, streaming, very important. Just sort of being in that sort of space can make you more applicable to a potential community manager hire being candidate. In terms of QA testing, that's a little bit easier. There are a lot of QA testing positions throughout the country, just depending on what local game studios are nearby you. There's a ton up in Austin. There's a ton in California. I myself, when I worked at EA, was in like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is the last place you'd think like all of the testing for EA was at. But there you go. So there's a bunch of job opportunities everywhere. And in terms of QA stuff, just experience. You don't really need too much experience to like start QA testing, but you can really quickly climb up that ladder if you are really passionate about it and do a great job.
Thanks for answering that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a huge question that a lot of people have. In terms of relocating from Austin, opportunities for someone in Austin that can commute when needed. That's an interesting question, Ethane. I would just reach out to our recruiting guy. They could probably hook something up. They could probably figure out a way to make something like that work, but I'm unsure of the specifics enough to really speak on them. But we have guys who work in Austin. We have guys who lived in Austin and live here now. Stuff like that. Totally possible.
Oh, were you guys picking up my hot mic on my keyboard?
Oh, it's probably me.
Oh, sorry if it was me. I was responding in the email.
Oh no, it's usually why I run. It's usually why I run push to talk.
Perfect.
I got the really loud G910, so it's loud.
Yeah.
Good keyboard though.
It's a great keyboard. I really like what you guys have done with the lighting on it in game. It's really pretty.
Nice.
So, I have another question about going back to the roundtables that you guys do periodically.
Sure.
Will you guys start recording them now that someone in the Dreadnought Discord server is not recording them?
That's actually a really good idea, and I think it was an opportunity that we sort of missed with this one. The one that we put out very recently, or the one that we posted very recently, was a bit more off the cuff. We'd sort of planned for it, but at the same time, sort of not planned for it, and some of that stuff got really like lost in the wash, where we sort of didn't really prepare for it as well as we could have, I think. But now that we are in closed beta, and ironically closed means that we are open to communicating everything that's going on. Like there's no NDA anymore. We're totally open to talk about it. I know we had a bunch of those developer roundtables in the closed alpha, and there was like some concern with like it being recorded or blah blah blah. But we're in closed beta now. We're totally open to talk about everything. We want you guys to know about it. We want you guys to hear about it. So it was we should have recorded it. We unfortunately didn't, but we are going to have another one of those relatively soon. I think not super soon, but we're already talking about some of the topics that we would want to bring up the next time that we're going to set one of those up. So we'll absolutely bring a little recorder along with us, because a lot of that stuff's really important, and it's also not the best time for everybody. That's the other thing we need to really figure out about those, is that it's a great time for more of our EU friends and also our developers over in Germany, because it's sort of like their end of day, but it's really bad for a lot of the folks in North America. So we may look into maybe doing 2 of those and alternating the time slots, or doing them twice a day, or doing them in the afternoon, and maybe Jaeger wakes up early, or something like that. We need to figure out a better time frame for that. And any suggestions that anybody has in the community, please post them on, link us on Twitter, post them in the forums, any of that stuff. Because we're open to suggestions, and we really just want to get as much of you guys in as possible. I know we aren't really doing that the best way right now. We need to find a way to make that better.
For sure.
Also,
And,
Australia's a thing,
yeah, Australia is
which I
definitely
didn't
a thing.
even think about.
So one thing that is good about the community team here is that we're scaling up. We just had Miguel at Up join the community team as a community specialist, and likewise, we are having an intern jump onto our team as well, almost a full-time intern. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time for the community team. And then we have another person joining on the next week, actually, right, Sean? As I understand it.
Yeah, dude, we're getting big. It's not just us two anymore.
Yeah.
That's
And
all.
then after that, in another couple of weeks, we have another one joining in, but more of a I don't want to ruin that. So, but we're definitely gonna be scaling up when it comes to people, and then and that's gonna be make it a lot easier for everybody here. So that's gonna be awesome. And
Yeah,
then
that will be awesome.
yeah. And so Zarek, the one thing that I am very cautious about streaming the roundtables on Twitch is because sometimes some things get lost in context, and people, if they're not there, they watch a VOD and stuff like that, it might be lost. Likewise, I would hate to have to be like, if somebody asks a question but they're very shy or they don't want to be broadcasted. A lot of people have security issues, and being in those roundtables, you have the freedom to ask the developers anything. But if you're not comfortable with the idea of speaking in front of an audience, then it creates an anxiety. So that's just something that we're working on. And likewise, I don't want to be broadcasting the roundtable in the sense where I'm asking questions from chat at the same exact time, because I would hate to be like, hold on, Jaeger, hold on a second, we got a question from chat and stuff like that. I want to reward the players that jump into that Discord and has those kind of communication, that dialogue, and reward you guys, the people that Twitch is awesome. You know, I'm the biggest advocate for Twitch, but there's definitely that other avenue of people who make a effort to show up and want to have that one-on-one dialogue, that very intimate dialogue with developers.
Yeah, maybe we mix it down and like repost it on Twitch or something. Could
For
be very
sure.
interesting.
And for those of you that aren't on the Dreadnought Discord server where we have these roundtable meetings, exclamation
First
point
of all, you're missing
DN.
out.
Yeah, first off, you're missing out on a lot. It's a great place to find a group for Dreadnought. But exclamation point DN Discord will give you the link, the permalink to the Discord server. So if you ever forget
Join
it,
us.
come by the stream, just exclamation point DN Discord, and you'll get it. So now a question that's been on my mind since last year.
Woo.
Will there be a Dreadnought booth at PAX Prime this year?
You were at PAX Prime last year, weren't you?
I was. I was the
That's what
30 game
yeah,
guy.
You were the guy with the 30 games that, like, by the end of it, your punch card was just in tatters and ribbons.
I still have it too.
Oh, that thing's so badass, man. That's awesome. I don't
Can you
know
comment?
if we can say exactly yes on whether we're going to be there, but PAX East, us not being there, was definitely a fluke. Not necessarily a fluke, but it was not our normal schedule and not our normal cadence. There's a lot of fun stuff happening in the fall.
I can hear
And
you
there's a lot
smiling,
of-
Tuxedo, over the
there's a lot
microphone.
There's
Yeah,
a lot of
no
really
kidding.
good reasons why we would want to be at PAX Prime. Or PAX West, I think is what it's called now.
Oh, is it PAX
Um,
West now?
Yeah, I think they changed the name for whatever reason. But yeah, PAX Prime, PAX West, whatever it is. There's a lot of really dope reasons for us to want to be there and show off some really fun stuff to you guys.
So that's a maybe, probably yes that he can't say.
I don't think I can legally say yes. I think I'd get in a lot of trouble. But it would be. I would be really sad if we didn't go, and I know
I'll
you
be
guys
really
would,
sad
and I
if
know
you don't
A lot
go.
of people here would be really sad if we didn't go. So you can sort of probably draw your own conclusions from that.
I got to break my own 30 record since I don't think anyone else has.
Absolutely, dude.
I will give you one better. I will 100% be there. I mean, no, I will 99% be there, because there's always that one chance that like something at the office, like, Thor, you cannot leave or everybody dies, and then I won't go. But
You're like holding up the ceiling.
yeah, I'm
for us to
holding the one
collapse.
pillar of this office up, which is highly unlikely.
He's
But
so strong.
stop it. But I can't imagine a world where Tuxedo and I would not be there. For sure. At least us two. As
And
friends.
almost certainly Dreadnought. Like there's so the roadmap for what's going on. There's so much going on in the coming months that like it'd be really fun to be there. And I think you guys would have a lot of fun too.
Oh, your booth is a blast. The party that you guys had last year, that was a blast too.
Yeah,
You
dude,
guys
I know
put
we
on
are
a
for certain going to
fantastic
be.
booth.
I know we are for certain going to be at Comic Palooza coming up. I know we're for certain going to be at PDX Land, which is like a bit of a land
It's an
thing
awesome
going on
LAN party.
in Portland. Yeah, that was a lot of fun last year. We're doing that again, but that's sort of that's a bit more small time.
Yeah.
But the big shows, yeah, dude. You know, we have historically Greybox has done a really great job of showing up for those and making a real big scene. So we'd hate to spoil that tradition.
Yeah, I'd hate for you to spoil it too. It was awesome last year. It was pretty good the year before that, and I can only see things getting better for you guys.
Right on, man. But yeah, that's about all I can say. Sorry.
Oh no, it's actually a lot more than I expected.
Right on, right on. Yeah, incoming Thor and Empty Tuxedo fan fiction. Oh goodness, Thor.
Oh,
What is this?
I looked lovingly into your eyes, Sean, asking,
Always.
when's the next content coming, baby? Oh, and before it's gonna be a thing. Friends forever.
So, does anyone in chat have any other questions that you want to ask these guys before I let them go? Or do you guys feel like playing a game?
Ooh. I have a meeting with a CEO in about 10 minutes that I have to prepare for. Not our CEO, but a CEO.
Yeah, it's sort of unfortunate that we are
Oh,
very
no,
meeting heavy right now. But
That's
that
fine.
I will give you a rain check that we absolutely should
All right.
play more games with you guys in the future for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and some people talking about team elimination in chat. Yeah, guys, that is one of the game modes that aren't really queued up heavily right now, and it can lead to very, 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 very long queue times. Sorry about that, Jack. It's just one of those things. But that being said, I do want to do more team eliminations in stream, or maybe Kyle, you can get a 5v5
Yeah.
going on, a little bit of team elimination hype going down. Because I love it. I love the Starfighter. Like team elimination has so much potential.
It really does.
So I'm excited.
So, what about the what was the question? Tweaking contracts so you can cancel them.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of those contracts are at like the very infancy of what we should expect out of what that like finished system looks like. A lot of the contracts right now are either like not so great, or they're difficult to get, or you can't cancel them. So you inevitably get ones that aren't that interesting, or you just straight up can't do and have to wait for them to expire, or you can't do it all. But much like some of those other systems, we didn't have contracts in alpha, at least not until the end there.
Yeah.
And we sort of are just dipping our toe into what this could be. And all these systems are meant to speak to each other and play with each other in a really interesting and fun way. So if contracts aren't holding up their end of the bargain, then they absolutely need to be improved. And the fact that they are so rudimentary right now means that we're just, figuring those out, and they're gonna get way better, and it's gonna be amazing, and it's gonna be awesome. And I'm sorry that it isn't right now, but it's gonna be soon.
Because I know I've had the total elimination win 2 team elimination battles queued for a long
Not easy.
time.
Not easy, yeah.
Give that man a medal. Perfect. Yeah, just to Sean's point, you guys are, we hate it for you guys. But like, there's a lot of great things coming down the pipeline. And it's just soon TM. I hate it. Before I got into the video game industry, I was like, I don't know why developers just don't tell us everything. And then I like got behind the scenes and I'm like, oh no. So it's unfortunate, but it's a side effect about doing video games. But we'll keep you guys. Trust me, we're your biggest fans. We want you guys to know that stuff as fast as it comes online. So we're rooting for you guys. We want to make this place a great environment.
And I want to thank you guys again so much for coming by. I know I'm not a huge streamer, but I do stream. I try to stream Dreadnought almost every day of the week, and you guys have put together a fantastic. I know it's not just you guys, but your whole team has put together a fantastic product.
I would like to take a lot of the credit. I think Thor and I do the majority of the heavy lifting with regard to like
Sure.
design and everything like that. But that's not the case at all. There's just a huge team working on this thing, and they're doing such a great job.
I'm gonna go back and start coding some shit. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
No.
dude, we need to fix all that
Yeah.
stuff with the whatever.
Potato codes. No, I mean, Kyle, we'll bring that on to the rest of the developers. The guys over at Jaeger and 6 Foot, man, they've. I do hate to see some of the flack that they get a lot of the time. Because a lot of the times there's just things that when you have a big game like this and you have a lot of cogs in the wheel, I mean, whether it's UI, whether it's just systems, matchmaking, and stuff like that, all those cogs need to turn at the same exact time for that game to come online. And they've done so much strides, and I'm really proud of what they've done so far. But it's going to be just like Astocast said, it's good now. It's going to be so much better when we get those kind of things online. So be
Yeah,
patient with us,
absolutely.
guys. Be patient with us. Thank you very much for being patient with us. But we got a lot of things. Got a lot of things coming down the pipeline. I'm really excited. And no worries, Flames. Glad you're here, buddy.
So I know
Right
you
on.
have to take off, Thor. So I think I'll call the interview stuff done, take a little break, and then come back with more Dreadnought. So thanks, guys, for coming by.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much, Kyle. Man, we're going to have to do this again, and thank you everybody in chat for popping by. This
Yeah,
this
thank
was
you
a
all. I
blast.
really appreciate it.
For sure. Guys, thank you so much for, again in chat. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. The reason why I chose Kyle as one of our broadcasters, because he's a great guy and he has a great heart. So I'm glad to be here. By the way, Crystal Tickler,
Aw.
good to see you. But Kyle, keep being you, buddy. Keep being you.
Thanks.
No
We'll see you
worries,
guys in
dude.
game.